Hey guys, it's Vernie here. Just making another video to talk about an exciting new development for Faded. So earlier last week, Blizzard released a post stating that they were going to try something new for Faded. Now, if you were not around for Shadowlands, Faded was something they did at the end of the expansion, so it was technically a Season 4. They didn't release any new raid tiers, but they remade the first three raid tiers and scaled them up, and then added like affixes, like they added mobs that you needed to interrupt, and if you interrupted them, you got a damage bonus, little things like that. And then they also did another season of Mythic Plus where they changed the seasonal affix to give big boosts depending on which mob you killed. So it kind of like spiced up a little bit. It was a very short, kind of casual season. I think maybe 2 or 3 months, not very long. They also introduced the dinar system, where if you killed X number of bosses, you got a piece of currency, and then when you had a piece of currency, you could buy any of the chosen items. So if you were looking for like specific trinkets or weapons, you could target farm those, which is kind of interesting. People really liked that. Obviously, raiding for 12 weeks and not getting the weapon you want is pretty ass. So being able to target farm is very nice. Anyway, they've announced that with like a slight twist to Season 4 of Dragonflight, so let's just go ahead and go over it real quick. This is the Blizzard post. So in Dragonflight Season 4, we're going to try something new. We're preparing a remix set of gear for each specialization. To determine what that means for each class and spec, we're going to ask you to vote for your favorite class look and your favorite specialization set bonuses from the first 3 seasons of Dragonflight. This means that in Season 4, Demon Hunters might vote for a set that has the look of Season 1, with Season 2 set bonuses for Havoc and Season 3 set bonuses for Vengeance. We've opened a poll for every class and every spec. You can vote now on your favorites, and the winners will determine what we build into the endgame for Season 4. Please keep in mind that we're going to update the power of the set bonuses to match the increased power of the new gear in Season 4, so any bonuses you choose will be tuned to be as strong as any others. So that last statement's a little dubious. I don't know how tuning will go when they're only giving a week to vote for this. Supposedly it's only a week. And you are able to vote on the Blizzard forums, so I would encourage you, if you have any opinions, to go ahead and go vote. The window's pretty small. Now, it is an interesting concept because in Shadowlands, they just ported the Season 3 Sepulcher tier and bumped up the item level. That was it. They didn't give you the option of old tiers. They didn't allow you to vote. They didn't change the transmogs. This is kind of an interesting idea, I think. I mean, I don't think the transmogs are getting recolored or anything, but if you really liked the look of, Vault of the Incarnate Shaman tier, you could decide to use the current set bonus with that tier, that transmog, and that would be Season 4. Now, obviously, things like transmog don't have a whole lot of impact on the game, but I think people enjoy when their sets look good. They like playing characters with good-looking sets. Uh, Now, like worries about this, I'm a little concerned that they're well, a few things. So the concern with this in particular is that with only a week and potentially 2 to 3 months of testing, I don't see how they could actually update the bonuses to be competitive. I just, I guess I see issues here. Um, I don't know. Historically, they have not been very good about testing things on like a rigid timeline, and I think with only having a week to figure it out, and then a month or two to test it internally, and then what, a couple weeks on PTR, it leaves a little to be desired. And I think that it might mean you end up with kind of a shoddy set that's not tuned properly, and like because a lot of these classes are dependent on these sets being tuned well, then if you end up on a class where your set is just not great or it doesn't play great, then you're not going to like it. For instance, there are a couple sets that have really contentious bonuses that were changed multiple times. I know, like the Destruction Warlock set from this tier with Dimensional Portal, people did not really like. I know that the Shadow Priest redesign into like a Shadow War Death focused tier set, people don't really like it. And so I just think leaving it up to community vote, or in a rushed community vote at that, is kind of a dangerous precedent. And though there are some really cool ones that I would like to see come back, but there are some weird outliers that you definitely don't want to see, and you would hope people wouldn't vote for. But I mean, people did something similar with the votings for I think it was the Season 4 Dungeons and Shadowlands. People voted for Grimrail Depot, which I'm gonna be honest, I thought that dungeon was pretty shitty. Extremely cramped corners. You really couldn't skip a whole lot. I don't know why that was voted in over something like Skyreach, but that's just my opinion. I am obviously not the only person who plays this game, and obviously this should not only be focused on high-end raiders, but also like people who just do normal or heroic. So the vote does present an interesting thing, and the other problem with Faded is that I think Blizzard might look at this as sort of like a replacement tier. In Shadowlands, Faded was seen as kind of an experiment. They only had a couple devs working on it. I think it was like less than 10 is what they announced. I'd have to go look at some old interviews to find out, but it was a very small team, and they basically just did some, minor changes, added in, like, spiced up a few fights, and it was kind of an interesting concept that you could go back and do the raids you had missed. Like I didn't do Castle Nathria, so if I wanted the opportunity, I could go back and do Castle Nathria. And then they added a couple, rewards. They had a mount, they had some portals, and they had a title. So, like, that's cool. I think the biggest thing is definitely the Dinar system. Being able to target farm gear is really, really awesome for people who have spicy stuff like the Razageth bow or some of the cool trinkets like the Neltharion trinkets. Just something that you didn't get, a beacon maybe. This could be a nice opportunity to get that. They have announced that they're going to continue that system, so that's cool. But I do think that there is a chance that Blizzard views this as a way to bridge gaps and then potentially cut content. They announced earlier this year that well, I guess technically last year now, that they're trying to speed up the expansion timeline. And in my eyes, and I think in a lot of high-end raiders' eyes, that means that they're probably going to drop a raid tier. I think in past expansions where we've had 4 raid tiers, or 4 dungeons, 4 raids, that does not look like the norm going forward. And as someone who likes new content and doesn't like expansions being quote-unquote rushed, I do worry about the precedent that it sets, that maybe they'll just get into this lazy, faded cycle and just say, oh, well, we'll splice it up and you can do the same thing. It's like, I mean, that's great for like a small portion of the player base, but for people who have been playing the whole expansion, it's not ideal. No one wants to sit there and target farm. No one wants to go back and do Dathia. No one wants to go back and do Senarth. Like, these bosses sucked. So having to do them again with an additional mechanic means very little. And on that topic, what about the seasonal affix? One of the things that made Season 4 of Shadowlands so good was Encrypted. And Encrypted in dungeons, if you killed a certain type of mob, you got a buff. One of them was a cooldown reduction, one of them was miniature bloodlust, and then one of them was you got stealth, or you got invisibility and movement speed for 60 seconds. So that like really spiced up the dungeons, and that you could choose a new pull route. You could choose to kill the CDR and get all your cooldowns back, or you could choose to have a mini lust. And so that provided some choice. Well, now we don't have the seasonal affix anymore. You just have the base affixes. So I don't know. They haven't said if they're going to do a seasonal affix yet. I'm hoping they will. And I'm hoping that they bring back the Dragonflight dungeons so we can get a rotation of the full Dragonflight dungeons like we should have had at the start of Season 1. And that would be a nice way to end the expansion. But I do worry going forward that they see this as like a replacement for a tier, and they can just slightly change the current tier we've been doing, and that'll work for them, and make all their ends meet, and then they just have to spend less development time because they can keep, pushing out the cycles like that. Oh, 18 months instead of 24. It's like, not super great on that. But anyway, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. You feel free to comment and let me know how you feel about it. Did you like Faded? Are you excited for the new Faded? Are you pretty meh on it? Do you plan on playing? Yes, no? And we'll have to see. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.